Nicole. Hi, everyone. I think this is my first time meeting the rest of the room. My name is Jordan Welch. I live out in Seattle, and I actually connected with Where the Rope Ends because I run the Seattle chapter of a nationwide outdoorsy meetup group called Mappy Hour. So it's like happy hour, but with maps. And it serves pretty much the 20 to 40 demographic of people that want to get outside, even though they live in big cities. So we have chapters in New York, Chicago, DC, Denver, and my chapter here in Seattle has around 700 members. So Bailey and Nicole had actually reached out to me to make me aware of the film when it had its screening in Seattle recently. And I went ahead and shared that out with members of my chapter so that they could attend. And along the way, I was asking questions about how they were promoting the film and getting it in front of the different cross segments of interested, let's say, hobbyists, right? The films, if you haven't seen it, it involves the outdoor rec audience, it involves healthcare, nurses, it involves even a little bit of like spirituality and yoga and mindfulness and things like that. So I think that there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different people that this film can speak to. Our theater had over 200 people in attendance from all walks of life. It was a really cool experience to help out with. So I am here to basically talk a little bit more about um, how our process went, how we overcame challenges, and just main takeaways or things that if we were to do over again, what we might choose to do differently. So I think we got in touch maybe 6 to 8 weeks before the movie premiere. Hang on, before I jump any further into this, Bailey, Nicole, I assume you've met everyone in the room here, but if not, would you like to say a quick hello and talk about how you're involved here? I don't mean to step on any shoes.
Oh, that's okay, Jordan. Thanks for jumping right in. We want to get the most out of you that we can.
Sure.
We're just really honored to have you here with us. And I just wanted to give folks a little bit of context that this situation that Jordan's talking about, this screening that we had of Where the Rope Ends, was a screening that Bailey and I were doing after we had already exhausted our our original outreach of friends and family. So connections that we already had established were gone, and now we were trying to grow beyond the scope of our already established audience. And Jordan was just instrumental in helping us to figure out how to get beyond, that audience that we were already reaching out to. So just a little context.
Good to see you, everyone. Yeah, that's perfect. I just was wanted to say the same thing. So I'm glad you brought that up because after our first two screenings, we sold those both out and we were feeling really confident. And so we thought, okay, let's book this big theater. So we did and started to get a little disappointed about our ticket sales. We kind of just thought we would ride this wave of natural momentum. But especially in a big city, there's so many events. And so you really have to do things differently to get noticed. And so that was when we brought in Jordan.
Yeah, and kind of the whole purpose of the way that we did this film was so that search and rescue can grow beyond your original established audience, right? So then it becomes like, well, how do you do that? How do you reach these people that aren't already on our newsletter list? And so that's what Jordan was really instrumental in helping us to achieve. And he had just so many great tips and tricks, and he's been in this game for a while, and just we really feel like he's the perfect person for you guys to ask your questions to when you're starting to do the same kind of thing.
That's so nice of both of you. It means a lot. Yeah, it's been an honor and a lot of fun actually working with this team. I have a career in tech sales and small business consulting, and when I have an opportunity like this come across my plate, it's really hard to turn down because it's just so fun and wholesome. So yeah, it's really been a lot of fun getting the word out about Where the Rope Ends. So I think where we landed was, I'd say, like 6 to 8 weeks before we had a screening at an indie theater that we had reserved, and we brainstormed a lot of different ways to do outreach. And this is with a pretty limited budget. We're trying to be as scrappy as we can. But the two basic avenues that I'm going to be talking about are digital and print media. And when I talk about digital, that's going to be emails, like newsletters, social media campaigns, if you've got like a Facebook or an Instagram account, just a couple examples. And then print media is like if you have a local paper that you're partnered with in any way, or if you have even like a nightlife magazine in town where you can submit upcoming events. And then the last thing would be flyering. You know, we considered doing a flyering campaign, which would be printing, 8.5 by 11 color flyers near climbing gyms and other highly trafficked areas where we think would attract the kind of demographic that would be interested. We ended up not going forward with that print media campaign just for lack of time, but we can definitely talk about those two avenues on the call. So I guess the first thing is top of funnel when we're talking about attracting the right people, the right demographic to get into the theater. When we were talking every call, I say, the goal is butts and seats, right? So we want to get those tushies planted in the theater by any means necessary. So if I am in a local market where I'm I guess a nonprofit or an entity here in the community with search and rescue, where maybe you have a division that focuses on outreach or fundraising or anything like that, that's going to be the best place to start to get the word out. And then that can offer a lot of one-to-many opportunities. When I say one-to-many, it's like maybe you bounce a quick press release or an email that says, hey, we're going to be showing this film in town at this place, this date. It's about this synopsis. Here's what it's about. And, tickets are this much and hurry in. And so you might send that to that newspaper that you know in town, or you might send it to that nightlife magazine, and they could do a quick little article about it based on your press release. You can send that out as well over email. This is a pretty traditional way to kick off like getting awareness about a film. So if anyone here would need help with looking at a template of what that looks like, I have one that I did for the Seattle events that I was sending out to different demographics. And when I keep saying the word demographics, it's the kind of personas that would sit in and watch something like this. So I mentioned a little bit about, the outdoor community. So, with the chapter that I run out here, I'm fortunately the most well connected there. Also have a friend who helps out with travel nurses that come into Seattle and do contracts at Harborview where Nicole works. And so that was, another really good connection to make is the subject matter really spoke to them. And they must have had 10 girls in attendance who were all wanting a poster and Nicole on their wall after that movie. So,
Hey Jordan, can you talk about the cost for getting these kinds of resources to publish the event?
I can, yeah. So depending on what resources are available to you. So here in Seattle being a major market, if we wanted to go through like a Seattle Times or the nightlife magazine is called The Stranger, then typically you would either schedule an interview with a reporter who would run a piece on it, and you'd need like 2 or 3 months advance notice to get that even arranged if they're even interested, right? The other thing you can do is paid media, which is where you're basically buying advertising. And sometimes with newspapers, it can almost appear as though it's an article, and it's really, an ad, but it's like speaking to an upcoming show or theater production or things like that. So what we found was we were trying to do advertising with the Nightlife magazine, we ended up spending, I don't recall exactly the amount, but the campaign itself was not a success. So when I say campaign, what I mean is, we did this marketing activation, which is reaching out to this Nightlife magazine, and they came back and said, hey, we'll put something up on our website about you, but it's going to cost this amount. And when we did that, we were very underwhelmed at the performance that we got. So that's an example of a campaign that didn't quite work out. I think part of it was due to not giving it enough time, but also the smaller the budget for digital, the less visibility those things get. So, Bailey, do you happen to remember off the top of your head what the Ever Out product cost us, like what that investment looked like?
I want to say it was around $250 to $300.
Right. So
I did want to bring up, sorry to cut you off. I did want to bring up
that's
like
okay.
going off of that because Scott just asked what are the most effective ways to build interest. I want to bring up one use case that we had at our previous screening, and that was we had partnered with it was just my local dentist, And so they paid for one of our sponsorship packages, and a part of that was saying you can invite your whole client list. And so when Jordan was talking about one to many, like that is a really successful way to build that, is to partner with these local businesses. And so Jordan, like, would you recommend, because we didn't find success with the publication, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not the right route, but like for these chapters, would you say try that or no?
Yeah, it depends. And I think, another thing I had to like reframe as we were working together is a lot of this is exploring, it's almost like market research, right? So if we invested that 250 into that one product that didn't really generate as many sales as we were expecting, that's a learning. That's something that we know moving forward isn't the right fit for what we're doing. If I were to look at that as a sales vehicle, that like, hey, we're setting up this $250 campaign specifically to get sales, then I'd be bummed out, right? But I think what it taught us is this particular film, with the time that we had, was better pivoting into other resources. I know that Nicole and Bailey had also mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there were times where you either thought about or tried passing out flyers by hand, just kind of raise awareness. Maybe it's like free tickets or things like that. And that was another, we can call that a campaign, another way to do outreach. And I don't think that that was also particularly impactful. It was a good way to like get to know the community, but it was hard to measure, the amount of seats that were filled because of that. So that's an example of like one to one where you're like talking to individuals one at a time about your mission, right? Here we got this film coming up. Here's what it's about. We'd love for you to come see it. They might say okay, and like maybe 1 out of 10 or 100 or however many would show up. But the most efficient use of time is going to be, echoing Nicole and Bailey here. Um, if you can find existing orgs that can basically reshare your mission statement on what you're doing and get it out to their audience. So, for example, my friend who works in the travel nurse community out here, she has access to literally tens of thousands of travel nurses' eyeballs because they browse for, social media, her little community forum, and all that stuff. So, if you were in a market where she's connected with nurses, that would be an example of a good one-to-many resource. So, yeah, if you're already working in any sort of marketing or fundraising or PR within your search and rescue org, I would just go through the Rolodex, talk to those community partners that are already connected with you in some way. Out here, there's a big group called the Mountaineers. That's a kind of hiking and mountain climbing expeditions kind of group. And, we've got groups that do climbing and rappelling. And so these would be the things I would think of reaching out to say, hey, for example, with the theater that we booked, we had a few leftover seats. So I would talk to these climbing gyms and say, we've got this film coming up and we'd like to offer your staff a limited number of free tickets to come and watch. And by the way, would you like to offer some tickets up to your climbing gym members? So that way, if you want to offer them, say, a group buy or like a buy one, get one, 25% off or 50% off. Because again, the goal's butts in seats. So offering just a straight one for one discount may be somewhat impactful, but the real trick is getting that theater full. So the more that you can find a way to entice someone who's already interested to bring a friend through like a buy one, get one or something like that, I think we found a lot more success with that avenue. So yeah, there's a couple things here. So one to many, trying to sell multiple seats at a time instead of just one at a time. And I think those are just best practices in the sense of getting the word out, covering your costs, and so on. So each one of you should know roughly, like if you're going to be working with a local theater to screen this, what your overhead costs are. And we also had some other vehicles that I think definitely helped get people in the room. So we did a phenomenal kind of raffle. It's like donations from all over the place. Honestly, I was very astounded at all the community partners that came through for that. But it culminated with like, let's see, we started with like some outdoor clothing items. There were a few giveaways, and then it ended up being like a few really nice Airbnb stays that Bailey. So I won't say I can't measure. I don't know to date like how many people showed up to watch the film versus to get the giveaways. But at the end of the day, if they're in there and they're listening to the message, like I don't know if that's as important to track. But yeah, the idea of showing up to an indie documentary that talks about, the impact of search and rescue, this particular scenario. And then, by the way, there's kind of a community Q&A after. There's a chance to connect with members of the community, connect with members of search and rescue. And then those people in your Rolodex who already show up to support you in other avenues also have a chance if they wanted to table, right? So if you have maybe out here in Seattle, we've got a lot of outdoor clothing brands. I work with the Arc'teryx branch that's out here. So like if Arc'teryx, for example, wanted to table at that event, and that just means setting up a little booth, have a little wheel somebody could spin for a raffle for a free jacket or whatever, and then they collect an email and get them on their mailing list. Like that's a marketing product that Arc'teryx would pay us for to have a seat in the room like that. So that's another option to capture revenue or even consider it like a donation to help you cover your costs, is talk to those community partners about, hey, you want to set up a table and talk to our audience, and then we'll, get you in front of these however many hundreds of people you have in the theater. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling here. I realize there's a ton of messages I need to catch up on too. Bailey's correct. If you're in a small city, local publications, yes, exactly. How much we're charged for tickets? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. We were 20 a pop. Was that right? And then
It was $50 for a VIP ticket, which was 2 drinks and a small popcorn, which
correct.
and $20 for general admission. And we found that we sold about 50-50 of both types of tickets.
That's awesome. So that goes back to Kaj's question 3 minutes ago. Good. So I'm not that far behind. Okay. Yeah, this is a good action item here with the Rolodex. Anybody who's already donating to your org on a regular basis who may not be a private donor, like a residence, like a family, if it's a business, if it's another nonprofit or anything like that, the more you can ask their help to broadcast your cause, I think it's just going to have that ripple effect. So, let's see. I'm also looking here. What's that question? Oh, it's going so fast.
One of the questions is just basically how to navigate those conversations with a potential sponsor once you're in front of them or get them on the phone.
Yeah, so if you're not in the habit of maybe doing that with, community partners, I think really the ask is, we have this opportunity to show this film. It involves our org, like Search and Rescue is a main character of this film for once, which I think is great. And, we're going to celebrate this by bringing together a little community screening. And we'd love to have you join as a community partner and to help us cover the costs of the theater. We were wondering, like, would you like to donate a few things to raffle off? Would you like to table at the event and pay us, $100 or whatever? And like, you can decide what sounds appropriate, but it's also like, those community partners better than I do, your market better than I do. So if it's like a hesitance just on asking, like, I'm happy to help out with, like, again, the templates that I use and examples, and like we can even role play and practice. You can try to sell me on coming to your movie. But I think ultimately the allies that we have in the community are standing by to help, and all they're waiting for us to do is be vulnerable enough to ask for help, and that gives them permission to be better partners to us. So I think it's a really healthy exercise, and it's not an obligation either. It's like, hey, if you can do this, great. If not, like, we'd still have to have you come out, use a ticket, and hopefully just with that, they can at least share that with their community and let their community decide if it interests them.
And can you talk about, Jordan,
yes.
sorry, like what some ideas to include in a sponsorship package?
Yeah, so we brainstormed this, and I think we ended up adapting it to each conversation that we had. But if I were to do this again, I think it would be fun to come up with maybe like a crawl, walk, run, or bronze, silver, gold kind of tiered thing where, like, bronze is we'll give you a set amount of free tickets if you agree to send out an email blast and or like share an Instagram post to your audience. And then we can include a discounted code for your audience so that if they buy, do that buy one, get one kind of approach. Maybe silver is they donate something to raffle, and gold is they table the event and they have their own reps there to speak to that audience in between, before, during the intermission, after, to connect. And hopefully that's something that's valuable enough for them that they see the value. And besides, it's like another channel if they're already in the habit of making donations as a nonprofit, or if they're in the habit of volunteering labor hours, let's say, like that's just another way for them to kind of pivot what they already do and what they already provide. And then if you have maybe some other channels or other connections that might be a little bit more dormant, this is a great way to reintroduce a relationship. This is a great way to just get the conversation started and say, hey, we're really excited. There's this film that features us, getting it out all over the country, and we're lucky enough to have a screening here. Like, just get that tail wagging, get them excited, and I think it's surprising how much I saw the community come together, and especially with the Q&A session, just how grateful people were. It was a very um, emotional kind of screening, to be honest, and I think it's hard to convey that without experiencing it yourself. But I think that, anybody who I talked to who attended, you know, they were absolutely happy that they did. And I think that that's what we're trying to share here is this is just a really cool, like limited run kind of opportunity to see search and rescue up on the big screen.
Mhm.
Does that help? Does that help like get to the question you had for me?
Mhm.
I think so. Jordan, would you say for communities that are in a smaller setting, like they're rural communities that aren't in a big city, they don't have access to Arc'teryx or something, do you have any suggestions for those folks about what their resources might be, or if they should even be contacting these companies?
I do. So I grew up in a small town of 10,000 people in rural Southern Illinois. None of you have heard of it, I guarantee it. This is actually my bread and butter. When you're working in a small, tight-knit community like that, you've even got a stronger Rolodex because it's not just about the commerce, right? It's about the community. It's about the connections you have. Talk to the police department, talk to the fire department, talk to the other people that help out search and rescue as auxiliaries. I mean, I know there's a lot of crossover about people who have these professions and then volunteer on one side or the other. Talk to City Hall, your local Chamber of Commerce. You can get mentioned in a little spot. Just ask if they can donate a corner of that local newspaper that everybody in town gets at their door to just mention this event for a month and see where that takes you. I think if you could even, speak to it on local news, reach out and see, when's the last time they've done a spotlight on search and rescue. And especially if this can also speak to ways that people can see this as a donation, as a way to generate funds for their local search and rescue to support it. Much as you'd go to a car wash and support those high school kids, like I don't really see this as something that's a sale. Like the product's already been developed. This is just a celebration of what search and rescue is doing. So yeah, coming from a small town, like even talking to your local grocery stores about getting a flyer on those cork boards or going to the senior center or the teen center or the schools and getting flyers up. I think that's again, those one to many avenues where there's a lot of foot traffic, where people talk, where people share. So maybe handing out flyers on the corner would be the slowest way to do that. But if I can get one little mention up on that local hotel that always puts funny puns up and say, hey, come check out the search and rescue movie in town. And, maybe they'll check you a favor and do it for free or do it for $50. But like, if you're in that small of a town, you know exactly which hotel I'm talking about. Like that's where everybody posts their birthdays and their weddings, their will you marry me? So yeah, I think there's a lot of fun ways to connect even in those small town environments. And it doesn't have to be all corporate tables, right? Like you could have Boy Scouts show up. You could have them fundraise and, sell some popcorn or some Christmas trees ahead of time. I think there's a lot of different ways to feature community members to get seats sold. That doesn't even mean that you need to charge the Boy Scouts as an entity because they're community partners at the end of the day too. But if you have a local outfitter, if you have a guide service, and you have anyone who's offering paid services that get people outside, like any sort of climbing or rappelling guide group in your area, or like you guys do the rescues, you know what people are doing in your areas in the outdoors. That's what you got to save them from. Frankly, like whatever seems to be the most popular hobbies that are the extreme sports, outdoor sports that speak to this kind of theme of the film, like those would be the people I would contact about helping out. So I hope that helps cover it. I'm happy to dive deeper because I love small town USA. That's where I grew up.
One thing that Nicole did, which I thought was super cool, is she actually went to Wallace Falls and advertised the event there, which of course is very unique because that was where the accident happened and it's Nicole herself doing it. But I think trailheads are a great way to tap into your exact audience because they want to support you as they're doing these
Sure.
activities. And also, if you have dogs in your organization, I would totally take advantage of them because think about it, like if you're there with your dogs, at the trailhead, like that immediately can help disarm people. Because I think people tend to shut down when you get handed a flyer in your face. But like use your dogs, or use your vehicles, or use just like your cool backpacks and gear to show that like you're a professional and you're not just like spamming them with things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. Like if you've got state, municipal, even, national parks in your territory, if you've got anything where you can work with rangers, or you can work with city employees, municipal employees that, are going to be doing like Parks and Rec type gigs, they can let you know, is there a place where we can hang these flyers on a cork board in a dog park? Is there a place we can put this flyer up next to the trail map at the trailhead, and yeah, I think honestly, if you run in that tight of a community, like the word of mouth is gonna work in your favor more than like in a kind of a market like Seattle. I think was tough because we're all relatively strangers here in the sense of like if you're in a tight knit local community, you know who to talk to for these sorts of things. And I feel like in a city as big as Seattle, everyone that we marketed to outside of these communities that we knew um, were new to who we were new to search and rescue, were new to stories and Mappy Hour and all of it. So that was I think the hardest part. So the most that you can rely on friends or like warm connections just in your community. That way it doesn't feel as salesy. It doesn't feel as here I'm trying to sell you something. Take this. It's like, hey, we got this really cool thing coming up. We're celebrating. We worked with search and rescue in the past. Like, guess what? We're in a movie. Come see it. So anyway, I'm trying to catch up on some questions here. There's been some really good ones. Scott asked, did I build any kind of pitch deck to work with potential sponsors? I did come up with like an email prompt just to get the conversation rolling, and in some cases we didn't need to go into a full deck. Bailey, I believe, also had a resource similar to that, and it's really, I think the sales deck thing is like a test the waters with your audience kind of thing. I can think of some people that might have helped with like an Arc'teryx. Others it might have felt like a little overwhelming, like, oh, I'm getting like a whole timeshare pitch about coming to the movie. So if you already have rapport with a partner, like I would just lean on that rapport and try not to make it so formal as a deck. But if you're walking into like, I described kind of this stranger feeling of, cold contacting out here in Seattle. Yeah, I might bring a deck to kind of pitch like, hey, here's what is coming up, and here's why it should matter to you, and here's how you can participate, get excited about it, and share the word. So yeah, I think decks can function in the right environment, but it's pretty case by case. And I think honestly, just word of mouth with however you normally contact your community partners is going to be the most organic, natural feeling way to go. And if that includes decks, yeah, go for it. Let's see here. How much do you charge for tickets? Remember that. Sorry, every time something pitch deck. So you
Here,
got how
sorry,
many
Jordan, I
tickets would
can
you
help
say?
field these
Okay.
because some of them are
Yeah,
more
no.
like event, like about like our experience with the event, and some of them I'm Jordan, do you have experience with obtaining long-term donors, or how an organization could go about that, like just outside of
Yeah.
this event?
So my background is more sales and marketing than fundraising, but that's a great question. I do have some friends in the community that I could ask that exact same question. One of my closest friends who helps me out with my Mappy Hour chapter actually is the head of donations at Seattle Children's Hospital. So I could talk to her and see if she has any best practice tips for that. But I think if you find yourself in a place where you are hurting for long-term donors, I like to emulate winners. And what I mean by that phrase is let's look at the orgs that we feel like are getting a healthy amount of long-term donors in your community. And usually they'll publish those names to thank whoever in their community is making those donations. So it could be, I don't know, churches or schools or government boards like public libraries, and just see where the donors are coming from. And each of those types of boards or networks should have people staffing or at least responsible for even part-time intake of those donations. So before I make any assumptions, not knowing your market, I'd say that would be the people I'd want to set up a coffee date with. Is just say, hey, I see you handle fundraising for the school system or for the library system or for the local hospital or whatever. I was just looking for some advice for search and rescue. We got this film coming up, and we're looking for ways to connect with sponsors while we have this really cool opportunity to get in touch with them. And the other thing you can do if you're feeling that ballsy is just make a list of all the donors you can find recorded in your market and then go reach out to them yourself. That's a lot of work, but I mean, that's a whole job description for some people. Yeah, I'm happy to speak more to that. That seems to cover that topic.
We haven't, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say we tried something out with our last screening, and we thought we really want to invite these people that could be, you know, big donors in the future to the screening of our film to get them attached to that, you know, the concept and emotionally connected to what we're doing here. And so we did a lot of outreach trying to get people to come, and we were offering free tickets for these executives of these major companies to attend the event and be a part of that. And we didn't really have good success with that, but I would not say that that's a bad
Someone
option
else
for you
do the
guys.
audio. I'm so
So,
sorry. I might have just had a. Can anybody hear me? Come
yes,
on.
I
Mhm.
can hear you.
Okay, great. I think my internet just cut out. Disregard. Continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, Jordan. Um, I think that because you guys are search and rescue, because people know that you are a legitimate organization, they're going to open your email and possibly respond better than the cold call kind of stuff that Bailey and I did. So I think that this film could just really be an opportunity. It's your handshake with these organizations. It's your way of introducing yourselves to them and offering them some fun thing and a fun way to get to know you. So I think that starts the conversations right there if you can get them to come to the film.
Yeah,
And
I think that's. Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, Taya, can you bring up what you just wrote in the chat? I think those are really good ideas.
Yeah, sorry. I was gonna just say it, but then I try and follow instructions and you said to just put everything in the chat.
Oh no.
And so it seems kind of chaotic, but I have some experience with Eagle Scouts. They usually need to like pick a project. And so when you were talking about Boy Scouts, I was thinking like, oh, if you can get an Eagle Scout, he can kind of like be your boots on the ground. And that could be his project, was like doing fundraising and kind of like doing advertising. Not that you want to just pass off all your responsibility to an 18-year-old kid, but like, you know, you kind of like those. I was thinking that could be a cool resource, especially since they're typically associated with a church and they can kind of like use those connections to get people interested, and they'll come to support the Boy Scout and then kind of from there go on to supporting the search and rescue. And then I've also had some experience like volunteering for senior centers. They usually try and get their clients out of the centers, and they'll like go on field trips or they'll do activities and they'll bring people in. So I think Scott said he was going to do the showing at a senior center. And I was curious, or someone said they were doing their viewing at a senior center. I was curious if that was with all of the people there. And I don't know if that's like, does that feel like taking advantage of the elderly to try and get them to donate to like Central Arizona? I don't know if that's like even a good base that we should be tapping into. But I know they typically are really bored and they don't have a lot to do, as sad as that is. And so I don't know if that would be like a good resource or if that's something you would recommend staying away from, kind of thing. Those were just my two ideas that I was thinking.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I don't think there's any wrong, and I understand where you're coming from. It's like, are we taking advantage of a vulnerable demographic or anything like that? I mean, I think if the like senior center itself is willing to host this, like, that would be a good that I would raise that question with the management of that senior center to say, how can we do this in a way that feels good, right? So it's not about tricking or anything like that. Hopefully, I think it should just be about here's a way to celebrate our local search and rescue and hear a cool story about them in action. And if you're interested in donating, like here's a way to do it. But then if there's, a way for the senior center itself to just pay a flat rate for you to screen to entertain their group. I mean, senior centers will bring in barbershop quartets and all sorts of like, things to entertain their clients. And so I think if they've already spoken to interest for that, like it's probably a good fit. But I wouldn't make your target be individual seniors. I would make it, how do we screen this in this venue where we can invite seniors, but also, it's like your client at that point is the senior center, not like handing around a basket kind of thing. They can if they want, maybe have a tip jar or whatever, but if I were doing that, I'd make it for an arrangement with senior center. So that makes sense. But again, everybody knows their market differently, and that may not make sense for them. So just follow your gut, and it feels weird. Try not to take advantage of the elderly. That's my advice.
Yeah, the only thing I'd probably add to that, not that I would try and necessarily host or anything, but maybe as a potential outreach and marketing, is a lot of our searches have been for the elderly population with dementia that have gone and, wandering or lost or something like that. So I think you could, relate it in that if you're seeing the same thing where you're serving that community, because that's becoming a predominant, search scenario that we're finding ourselves in. You might be able to make a tie that way.
That's a great point, Scott. I'm glad you brought that up. I think, that's another way to angle this is you could make the movie just one part of a series of maybe you have a speaker that comes in and talks about like, you know, speaking to the silver alert demographic of like these are the most common reasons why search and rescue is called in to help out seniors. And here's what you can do to protect yourself at home. And here are resources that you can reach if you ever feel lost or confused. I think that's a great way to provide service to your community, and that doesn't feel icky. I think that would actually be a really cool way to spend time. So yeah, great point, Scott.
I wonder if you could just adding on to these ideas, like partner with the senior center for them to do a marketing event, not necessarily for their residents, but for people in the area with elderly parents that just might want to be informed about these kinds of things, and have search and rescue do a presentation, show the film, and have it be open to the public. So it's like the search or the senior center is benefiting because they're getting people that are checking out their space and might be interested later on. And then you search and rescue is obviously benefiting because you're bringing in a wider audience and
And I
can
think
ask
that's
for
exactly
donations.
yeah, perfect. Aerosmith just chimed in, and it sounds like that's exactly what they're doing. So Senior Center is one of the only suitable theaters in their market for Arrowhead. So they want 30 seats for their seniors, and the rest you guys would sell and promote. Like I think that's a perfectly reasonable way to do it, and it's kind of what Bailey's mentioned here. So, if they're also providing the theater, even better. That's a great way for them to step up and help you out as a community member. So it doesn't even look like, correct me if I'm wrong, Aerosmith, are they charging you for that as well, or they're just asking for seats for their seniors? Because that's a great arrangement. That's something I would want to emulate in other markets that are smaller.
Yeah, we have to finalize details with them, but basically one of our members has a business relationship with them, and then they found out we were doing this. The only other venue that we had would have been suitable for would have been like a large hall civic center, which the quality of the picture and sound really wouldn't have been as good. But yeah, basically they've just asked that we can have a spot for 30 of their people, and the seats, their theater has seats about 130. So. And actually, some of last year, some of their residents did a small fundraiser for us without us even asking. So it's kind of a good relationship to work, I think, to build on with them. So.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's like you already have that established growth beyond your already established audience built into this system, especially if you make it kind of a family event for these seniors. They could invite their family members, and then you have all these new people that aren't on your contact list yet that know about you. And I think it's a great idea. I hope that works out for you guys.
Yeah, it's very promising. So yeah, we're hoping that that will work out. So
That's a great example. I'm glad you brought it up. Thanks for typing that in. Well, I'm here until for my time, so I got about another 20 minutes left, and I'm happy to field any more Q&A. At this point, I feel like I've heard some voices on the mic, and if you want to hop in and ask a question over audio, if you want to type one in, I'm happy to just continue to do Q&A. And Bailey and Nicole, they're going to share my contact information after this if you have any questions that I can help follow up with. But ultimately, I just want to help capacitate everyone and enable you to have the most successful event possible. To not feel weird about just celebrating your cause and giving the community a chance to support you. Like, I think it's definitely a worthy cause. So if there's any other kind of questions or concerns, like feel free to raise them now or after you get my contact information, we can be in touch after.
One thing, Jordan, I wanted you to speak with them about is specifically how Mappy Hour might be able to help their organizations if they're in a location where there's a Mappy Hour group.
Sure. So I'm just going to type mappyhour.org into the chat there. Might have to copy paste that. I'm not sure if you can just click it in the chat, but this is the org that I run in Seattle, and we've got chapters across the U.S. and major markets. It's usually just for big cities. I think the smallest that we did was like Northwest Arkansas, like Bentonville. But we're in, I think I mentioned, Denver, Chicago, DC, New York, and missing probably another 3 to 5 or so. But it's a volunteer-led org. We're not like paid through community members. It's a free organization. The way that we stay in business, I guess, or the way that we get comped for our time is we have brands that will reach out to us. So we're sponsored by like Arc'teryx, or we're sponsored by, I think he's going to be doing Bilbo's shoes. And so they'll pay us part of their marketing budget to just get their products out in front of our audience at like a camp out or a guided hike, things like that. And it's just really like a gear demo or something like that. So it's not like I'm doing a commercial or some song and dance, but that's the business model. Right? So our members are there to have fun, to get outside, and then if the sponsors want to kick in some perks, and whether that's soft goods, hard goods, that means like clothes or like a headlamp or something like that. It can also just be, hey, do you guys want to get together and go camping this weekend? And there's no branding, there's no any obligation to the other entity. It's just something fun to do. So yeah, we have. How many members do we have? I think we have just around 10,000 nationwide. So that's a whole mailing list that we'd be happy to activate for the search and rescue, campaign that we're doing here. So I guess as we know when and where these films would take place, for sure, let me know whatever kind of PR release or email template you've developed to reach out to those partners. Likewise, I can pass that to the closest Mappy Hour chapter, and then they can run with it from there. But I know, based on this call, we may not have chapters in all of these locations. Places like, population over 150, 200,000, major airport, that sort of thing. So I don't break anybody's heart if we're not in that small town America spot. But the good news is with all of these members, if they see something and they happen to grow up or have connections in those smaller markets, they're real likely to pass that along to friends and family that they know out there, because it's just been a really good org to belong to for the right reasons and experience. If they understand the value of this, like there's no reason to share. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, by all means, please get in touch with us. And then moving forward, we'd love to work with search and rescue to do other events, whatever that might look like for you. And Mappy Hour could even table an event.
So Jordan, to that point, we're Western Washington. There's another number of other search and rescue orgs in Western Washington. I think they're involved in this event. If we took you up on your mailing list, do you segment then maybe your mailing to where you've got members that are in my geography versus
Correct.
okay. Perfect.
Yeah, so like I just drove down from Seattle to Tacoma before I came up here at the mountains today to go watch this new ski movie called oh my goodness, I completely spaced on what it's called. It's kind of
The Warren Miller stuff.
No, it was just a little fun rom-com actually that was made by some ski director. Now I'm totally spaced on the name. It's not thin ice, but it's a similar term for what precedes an avalanche, and it was a technical term. It was I'm gonna remember it with like 5 minutes left on this call. I'm gonna type it in. You can go, oh, it's that. But I drove from Seattle to Tacoma for that, and traffic was like an hour. So like my region we can say is Puget Sound. I have a colleague that helps me down in Tacoma. Seattle and Tacoma will do local meetups in town, and we'll do excursions together where we kind of group up and say, okay, we're going to head out to the peninsula. We're going to, the Olympics. We're going to go hit up Baker or whatever. So yeah, I mean, my chapter would be the one that covers Washington in general, and then we have others across the country. So if I don't personally handle those territories, we'll get you in touch with whoever would.
Okay, perfect.
I had a question about sponsorships. We recently looked into one that says that they support first responders. And in the applications, I've noticed that typically they're looking for you to have an event that's happening. So this is perfect that we have Where the Rope Ends as an event, because typically I've just been like, buying new equipment, is that an event? Like that's what we need to do, but we can do an event. So I've been kind of like pushing towards this event that we're having, but I was told by someone, and I don't know if she was sure. I was like, oh, we'll use the funding for like purchasing a venue, or we'll like purchase. I was curious how you guys got the drinks and popcorn. Did you just buy that, or did you have a sponsor for that? And so I was talking about like using the funding from the sponsorships to like host the event. And she was like, no, you can't do that. You can only use sponsorship money for advertising. That's like the only thing they'll give it to you for. And I was curious if you guys knew anything about that, if you'd had that experience, or if there was like a way around that, like stuff like that.
Well,
That's
the
a good question.
workaround that we had for drinks and popcorn was that, you know, we charged a ticket price that would cover it and still give us a little bit of money in our pocket. So this VIP ticket looked great because it had 2 drinks and popcorn, but actually we made just as much money off of that as we did the other ticket, you know. So you can advertise it that way. You don't have to give free drinks and popcorn to everyone, and you can just kind of up the ticket price for the ones that are getting the free popcorn, and obviously it's not free. It's being paid for through their their ticket price, but it makes them feel a little special because they have a ticket that says VIP on it.
And you know, there's a lot of different ways to package that product, right? So like, I feel like, you know, in our theater, we were fortunate that it had a concession stand and they could go and buy those things. And if you're in a theater that doesn't, that's a good opportunity to talk to the Boy Scouts, be like, hey, you want to run a popcorn machine and split it 50-50? Or like, you know, if you can find ways to maybe delegate or ask community partners to step in and phrase it as though you need help, right? Like it's not so much like, hey, come in with me on like that. We're going to be millionaires with this popcorn machine idea. No, you're just like, hey, if you want to help out, we just need hands on deck, just like that high school, you know, Eagle Scout kid who might help put flyers up or talk to the paper. It doesn't have to be a big ask, but there's a lot of orgs with people standing by with either money to donate or hours of labor, and maybe that's, you know, skilled or unskilled. But it's a cool way to see your community step up and help you out. So um, even if, you know, your terms or whatever don't allow you to make a full offer, ask somebody if they'd want to pay $100 a table and sell popcorn for $2 or $5 a bag or whatever it costs in your market. You know, like maybe that could help them to fundraise for their work as well. But I'm just spitballing. This is what I do. At the end of the day, you know your market better than I do, and we can always like take this offline too. If any of your particular markets seem tough for some reason, or you're facing any obstacles that seem unique, I'd love to hear about them. We can set up a time to chat later. And where it makes sense, you know, I'm happy to just give some free advice. And then, you know, you can also choose to activate me if you want to like pay me to come out and be, you know, some sort of resource for you. We can always talk about that too. But yeah, don't be scared to ask. And the worst I can say is I don't know what's going on. I'll connect you with somebody who does. That's kind of what I'm good at. So
Yeah, part of I mean, it's scary to go out and ask people for things, but what I've learned through this whole thing that we're doing with this movie is that's how you get people to be in your fan club. Like they don't know about you unless you go out there and you know, kind of introduce yourself. And this is one of the ways that you're going to be able to introduce search and rescue is through asking for community support. And once they're involved with you, then they'll be your friends forever. So it's just one more way to network if you think of it like that, you know.
yeah, I agree. And one of the coolest things about this, not to say the film wasn't great, don't get me wrong, but the way that the program emerged for this film screening is there was what was going to be a small Q&A section at the end that ended up being like a very heartfelt, like 30, 45-minute share, it felt like, just different people asking questions or comments about how the film impacted them. And it was also really touching to have a chance to have the search and rescue members who we saw in that film that were also in the room stand and be acknowledged and be applauded, you know. So I think it's also a really good chance to celebrate your team, right? So having an MC that can not, hopefully not be one of you, so you can get honored, you can have that moment, like having you all at the front of the stage or just stand up around the theater so you can have that moment of acknowledgement, I think is the whole reason why we're doing this, right? It's not to sell people on something that is, you know, sketchy or tricky or whatever. It's like this is a chance to celebrate the good that search and rescue does for our local communities. They're going to show up whether you believe in them or not. They believe in you, and that's I think what I'm trying to convey here is this is a wonderful brand to be having this conversation around, right? Like we're not an Arc'teryx. We're out there helping people every day. It's your whole job. You're the firefighters of the mountains and of the forests, and you know you're like the SEAL Team 6 of park rangers. You know, so when I was a kid, I looked up to you guys. I looked up to all of you, and I think that there's a lot of kids and a lot of adults that still do. They're going to want to hear about what you got going on. So, yeah, I would say don't be scared. It might seem uncomfortable or it might seem unfamiliar to kind of pitch this or ask if people want to get involved. And I think if you just have that conversation 3 to 5 times, to just shake the willies out, you're going to be really pleasantly surprised at the kind of positive feedback you get around it. And if it's just about getting your messaging together, give me a call. We'll make a little template. We'll practice whatever you need. It's going to be
Yeah.
fun.
I love what Jordan says. I think that the main thing I'm hearing is that ticket sales is just one avenue of how you can make money off of this. And I think having your members in the audience stand up and be recognized after the film it is such a just a touching thing for the audience members to know, oh, I was just sitting next to one of those guys, you know, and then to just, if you could find one person from your organization that's willing to stand up at the end and talk a bit about their experience, why they do what they do, just anybody that you find to be that, you know, the person that everybody's inspired by, if they are willing to be up there for you, that's going to do really huge things for you in your fundraising efforts.
Spot on. Couldn't agree more. Well, we have about 5 minutes left. Just want to reiterate, you're always welcome to reach out to me after this call, but you know, for making the most of our time, are there any other questions, comments, any departing words?
Great stuff. No, this is definitely worth the conversation. A lot of ideas I've got. It's going to be super helpful. Just I'm going to be meeting in a couple hours with the other 2 teams that we're partnering with to get this off the ground. So thanks much for sharing all your knowledge and offering to be a resource. Appreciate it.
Likewise, and you know, careful what you wish for, Scott. We're neighbors apparently, so we might be doing some work together. So looking forward to it. I appreciate your insights on the event as well. Everybody here had something to contribute, and I hope we all benefited from it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jordan, for being so great with your time and extending yourself to all of these wonderful organizations. We really appreciate you and your time that you spent with us today. So I do know that Jordan is sincere when he says go ahead and reach out to him, because he gets back to you right away. He really does have a passion for your organizations and he wants to help. So yeah, I'm just really glad that we met you, Jordan, and that you're included in this Where the Rope Ends effort to help search and rescue.
Thanks, Nicole. It's a good thing I got sunburned up on the mountain today because you can't see me blush. But yeah, likewise. Love you guys, and I love the cause that you're behind. And like, why not? You know, there's life's short. This is a fun thing to get involved with. Like, let's do it. This will be a fun story later for sure. All right, guys, I think that wraps it up for me. Again, thanks everyone who joined the call. Again, you've got my contact information. If you missed it, talk to Bailey or Nicole, or get in touch with me via email, or my social media is in the chat. This has been such a good use of time. Thank you for showing up.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you,
so
Jordan. Good to see you. And if
All
everyone,
right.
the search and rescue, if you wouldn't mind hanging on for just one more minute, just wanted to talk about next steps.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. I'll drop
Thanks,
out.
Thanks, Jordan. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, good stuff. I just wanted to bring up, so the next event that we're looking at having is, it's not technically a part of our expert speaker series, it's kind of a one-off, but we've been building a document that is very clear on what our team is providing, and then the expectations of the search and rescue teams, because we've been getting questions about, you know, are you guys reaching out to sponsors? Unfortunately, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And so just having that very clear. And then also we will be hosting the ticketing platform. And so there's kind of a guide for that. And the money, it never touches our hands. It goes directly to you all. So what we'll need from you is a representative to own that. But we're offering the platform, and then you go in and customize it, add your bank info, all of that. So that event is scheduled beginning of February.
So that would be like through your treasurer, right?
Or just
Um,
right? Whoever can dedicate the time to manage and customize it or whatever.
Yeah, because the income of money part is actually, like, it's pretty streamlined and efficient. But yeah, it'll be the person that has the time to manage it. And correct, because there are last minute needs that pop up as the screening comes along, where people might say, oh, I can't make it to the event, can you give my ticket to someone else, or can you release it? So like going into the platform, doing that real quick, that's what kind of that representative will also do.
Mhm.
Cool.
Would that work in Canada as well?
Oh, go ahead.
I'll double check. That's a really good question. I would assume so, but I will definitely confirm that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And thank you everyone for, obviously we are not event planners, so we're really like learning, we're your guinea pigs, and hopefully you've learned from some of our mistakes and learnings. But I think that, like, as we said, that there were some avenues that we didn't have success in, but something to keep in mind is that we're an independent film, and so people don't really understand, like, well, why would I give money? Because we're for our events, we're fundraising to pay for the cost of our film, and people don't understand, well, this film is already finished, why would I give money? So like, we're kind of overcoming that hurdle. But for you all, it's like a no-brainer to donate money. So I think that you'll have more success in your conversations.
I do too. I think you guys are going to do great. And I'm really excited to give you this layout of just clear expectations of what we're in charge of, what you're in charge of. And then you can kind of build out a timeline of like, okay, we want to get this stuff done this month. And that way you can do a step-by-step kind of process of how to get yourself to the finish line.
Yep. A couple questions I have. So one person that's in the group kind of planning this had some concerns that this overlaps the Great Give, which I think goes on around the same period of time. So just wanted to recall or have you guys refresh me, the use of the film is just for that 1 week of National Volunteer Recognition Week. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. It's
Okay.
going to be for that 1 week.
Okay.
And you're saying it's during a Great Give?
Yeah,
It's
I don't think it's going to be a concern myself. It's just that they do I think it's nationwide. But like they have the Kitsap Great Give, and I think that donation period and marketing for that charitable event occurs around the same time, if not the same week in April. So they were a little bit concerned about the overlap, but I don't think it's going to be an issue because this will be a live event, that kind of thing. It's a different format and all that. But I just want to make sure that, yeah, it's our only option to do this event using your screening is for that 1 week in April. The other question I had is, like, you're putting together for the who does what, was there a doc put together around like the specifications around how to get the film and what format, so that as we're looking at different venues, we know what they need to have or we need to have if we're going to do it in like a community hall, not a theater, that type of thing?
Yeah. I'm working on that right now. I actually have a meeting with someone next week to make a what's called a DCP, which is a file that a lot of theaters utilize.
Okay.
And so we're kind of trying to figure out what that process will look like. Yes, it'll be included in the document. One hurdle that we're coming across is that, because we're going to be giving this file to a bunch of different theaters, right? So we also want to make sure we're protecting it so that it doesn't get
Yep.
leaked. So, I mean, I
Well,
don't
and
know.
then based on your comment there, for if we don't end up using the theater, would we do something like this, run it off a computer, project it, that kind of thing? Is it in a digital format that we can run it off of any kind of a computer device? I don't know what's required to use it in a DCP format or whatever you were
Yeah,
showing there.
DCP is like if it's like your theater would specifically request that. It's kind of a technical format, but yes, I mean we have it. I could send you a link right now. We have it on Google Drive, and so if that's the case, I would just recommend downloading so it's available for offline use. But we'll have very clear directions about that in the
Okay.
doc.
Perfect. Okay.
Any other burning last minute questions from anyone?
I just so we've been discussing a little bit. I think I've mentioned in the Facebook or in an email. One of our members was on the rescue, somewhat similar rescue we did 2-3 years ago, where a lady fell down about a 30-foot cliff and seriously injured. She punctured lung, and we had to do a rope rescue and get her to where she could be helicoptered away. We're going to have about a 10-minute video, and there's a few of us debating whether that should be before or after the film. I don't know what your thought was. One thought is we'll get that as sort of a precursor, but then if people see the film and then when we can show it has a local flavor that was sort of similar things that have happened. I just sort of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I kind of feel like the film would be distracting. I think that I would play the film first and then go right into the local connection to this cause. In my opinion, I think like if you were to play the film after you played that beautiful 10-minute clip, that people would forget about that clip because the film's so much longer.
Yeah.
And I think like that's going to be your moment, because what we've learned from all these fundraising people is that you've got to have like this build up and this pinnacle moment where you say, okay, now's the moment where you give. And that's when you're going to do it after that 10-minute, get them connected to the local, and then do your paddle raise or whatever, however you're going to do your giving campaign at the event.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I would recommend is because if you're just thinking through the flow of the event, when the movie ends, people tend to want to get up, go to the bathroom, get a drink. So just something to consider is like, do you want to allow that time? Say like, okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break and we'll be back for more for presentations. But then you're risking losing some audience. So not necessarily that they are going to leave, but just things to consider as you're planning this. And then another idea is we found it really beneficial to hold multiple events, and we've heard this guidance from experts too. So like what if you had a smaller event, maybe with people with large networks, like maybe it is those dentists and those orthodontics and chiropractors, whatever, and play the 10-minute film, maybe even bring in the person that you rescued to speak and do that really inspirational event, and then promote your big event and have them spread the word to all of their network.
Okay, good. Yeah, we actually did ask her to come speak, but she was worried she'd get too emotional when she got up in front of people. So she asked to have a short little clip made up of her, which I've seen the draft. He's done a pretty good job with it. So.
That's really wonderful that you guys have that. That's special for your audience to see and really be able to connect to what you're doing. Okay, everybody. I think we've gone over the time, but it's just really great to see you all again. I'm glad you were able to be here with us in person. It makes it a lot more fun for us. I know it's a kind of a weird time in the day, but we've got people all over the country that are involved in this. And so picking a time is just not it's just not going to be great for anybody, I don't think. So we're trying out a few different things. And like I said, if you can't attend these in the future because of a time constraint, we're always going to record them. We're always going to have them available for you. And we're just really grateful to have you here with us. So as always, just reach out to us with any questions you have over email or and we will be in touch very soon about the next event we're going to have, which is the kind of one-off about the things we're in charge of, things you're in charge of, and just kind of solidifying all of that for everyone.
Cool.
And I would encourage everyone to interact with the Facebook page too. It feels very lonely in there sometimes.
And thanks very much.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
guys.
you.
Great.
Have a great day, everyone.
All right, you
Bye,
too.
everyone.